It's right off the Paris plane. You think it'll sell?
Well, that depends on the quote, you know. Let's see, now there's the airplane ticket over and import duties, hidden taxes, profit markup.
A steal at $1,100.
$1,100? They ought to list that dress on the stock exchange.
Why, we sell a dozen a day in this price range.
Who buys them? Tax collectors?
Even if I had to pay, it would be worth it. Just for the occasion.
Hi, welcome to the Bencher Movie Club. My name's Charlie.
And I'm Michael.
And Michael is here today because, as you might remember, he is the chair of the Howsham Jimmy Stewart Appreciation Society.
I'm the only member.
Yeah, he's the chair and the secretary. And we're going to be discussing the 1954 Alfred Hitchcock classic Rear Window. Alfred Hitchcock, who of course also directed Vertigo, Psycho, North by Northwest, and with Jimmy Stewart, who's in this. He also done The Man... what was the other Jimmy Stewart ones? So Rope.
The Man Who Knew Too Much.
Yeah.
Vertigo. And of course, Rear Window.
Jimmy Stewart was also in The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance.
Jimmy Stew.
Yeah, I'm on first name terms with him. Old Jim Stew was in The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, Anatomy of a Murder, and Harvey. And that was it. That's all he ever done.
Oh, I never did that. Was it called It's a Wonderful... What was it called?
It's a Wonderful Liberty Valance. You've also got Grace Kelly, who was in Dial for Murder, another Hitchcock film, To Catch a Thief, and High Noon. She sadly died in 1982.
Yeah, she was quite young, 52.
52. She suffered a cerebral hemorrhage while driving back to Monaco and drove off the cliff with her daughter in the car. Her daughter survived, but it must have been scary for her because her daughter then tried to gain control of the car and it went off this ledge. Wendell Corey, who is in Agent for Harm, The Search, and Women of the Prehistoric Planet.
That's Doyle, isn't it?
Yeah. He was an alcoholic and anti-Semite, according to Kirk Douglas, who he died of liver ailment, Wendell Corey, but at his funeral, Kirk Douglas spoke really highly of him, but it was more of a favour to the guy's wife, his widow, and afterwards he said, no, I didn't mean any of that, it's a jerk, they didn't like each other.
Really?
Thelma Ritter is in this. She's the
nurse.
Yeah. She's also in All About Eve, The Mating Season, Birdman of Alcatraz. She died of a heart attack in 1969, age 66.
Blimey.
Which is old back then.
Do you know, when we were watching the film again, I said that she was a really good actress. I really liked her performance in the film.
Yeah.
Quite funny.
How does this rank for you with Jimmy Stewart films? Because obviously Wonderful Life is your favourite.
This is the first film starring James Stewart I watched. Rear Window. Yeah.
How old was you?
No, I wasn't like a kid, like 16, 17 or maybe even 18, I think. I watched it with my parents, who had seen it before and said, you know, it's a great film. And I remember being completely absorbed by it. And when it finished, it completely took over me. I loved it. I thought it was a really, really brilliant story. And actually, it was James Stewart's favourite film he made with Hitchcock as well.
Yeah, well, he always do is sit down all day. It's easy for him. And make out with Grace Kelly. She was really attractive in it. She was really pretty.
Yeah, she was.
Out of all, because Hitchcock obviously had a type of leading lady, didn't he? He liked the pretty blonde. But apparently, Jimmy Stewart said that every day that she turned up on set, she just lit up the room. She was so friendly.
Mesmerised by her, weren't they, really?
Raymond Burr, who...
Thorwald, isn't it?
Yeah, Thorwald.
Lars Thorwald.
Yes. He's most famous for playing Ironside and Perry Mason in the Perry Mason films.
He was quite... he suited the part well, didn't he? At least he doesn't have a lot to say, but he had a real quite frightening look about him in a way.
Yeah, he's intimidating.
Intimidating, quite big. The eyes, sort of stature thing.
That's why Jimmy goes all like a pansy at the end, where he's like, flashing lights at him. Now, teacher, how about you?
His hair was fun. I don't know whether they colorised the film, but it was fun that his hair looked like
Jimmy?
solid. No, Raymond Burr. Thorwald.
Yeah.
His hair was like a solid white lump on the top of his head.
Like Lego, like a Lego character.
And I said we were talking about it because Lauren made some comments about the colours, because they're in these kind of movies where they were like Technicolor, and the eyes were really, really blue. And they obviously, all the colours are really saturated, aren't they? And in this film in particular, like Jimmy's eyes look really blue, and that guy's hair looked really, really white, and various other things.
Okay, so you didn't answer though. Where's this rank on your Jimmy Stewart films? Is it better than Harvey?
It's so different as a film. It's so different. I feel like Rear Window, Harvey, and It's a Wonderful Life are my favourite three.
I mean, Harvey was in this as well. He just had the hump with him, so he didn't talk to him as much. See, I have a similar thing to you, but with Vertigo, because Vertigo was the first. I think it was the first Hitchcock film I saw, and it was the first James Stewart film I saw.
Vertigo was. Interesting.
And that's why that's probably my favourite Jimmy Stewart film. Possibly my favourite Hitchcock as well.
Yeah, it's great.
I do love Vertigo.
I think it's an interesting one because his character's harder to get on board with in Vertigo.
Yeah.
But then saying that he's in Rear Window, he's not really your everyday
he's a
man.
jerk, isn't he?
He is a little bit, and he's quite it's quite perverse, isn't it? The idea of the obsession, and he's quite rude to her, and he's got his sort of ideals are so different. We can talk about that in a minute, I suppose. But
and he's got a saggy old man body as well. But he's not even that old. How old was he in this?
Was it 1954, the film, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He was born in 1908, I think. Right. So it was that. Because where's your maths? 46?
What was it? 54, you said this?
Yeah, so it was 46.
Yeah. But he looks
Is that what your body's looking like?
Yeah. A lot of films, he treats women like crap, and they're really attractive women.
A lot of films? What do you mean?
Well, I think...
Not really.
Okay, not treats them like crap, but I mean, like, say, even Wonderful Life, where he's like shouting and stuff, I think that's quite rude.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem is, but then that's driven by his character, who's somebody that's desperate and things aren't going the way he wanted them to be going in life. So I don't think it's targeting.
Yeah, hello, welcome to life.
I don't think he's targeting it at a woman.
Yeah.
Just happens to be quite angry in the film. Whereas in this, obviously, the idea is she wants to settle down and she loves him.
God,
it's quite heartbreaking.
I'd settle for her.
Would you? It was because she's that scene when she says, I love you and all this, and it's quite sweet.
I don't get out the way. I'm trying to watch my neighbours.
And he's quite.
I love you.
And he gets quite gross, isn't he, talking about his life and she's.
What's this wart on my cock?
What?
What's this wart? Have a look at that. What's that character's name again?
Lisa Fremont.
Lisa, come look at this giant wart on my ass.
I thought it was an intellectual chat about film, was it not?
It is.
Oh.
Ross Bagdasarian plays the songwriter.
Okay.
On piano. Yeah. Do you know what he's famous for?
No.
His stage name is a clue. His stage name is David Seville.
David Seville. That rings a bell. Go on.
Created Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Really?
Yeah. So now there's.
Oh, that's interesting.
And David Seville is the character who's with Alvin and the Chipmunks. So he done the original song. He also done Witch Doctor. I called the Witch Doctor. That was in '58 that he had the Alvin and the Chipmunks thing, but that basically launched him. And that was the songwriter in this.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Irene Winston, who plays Emma Thorwald. She was in Dear Brat, Bury Me Dead, Passport to Danger. She died 10 years later, aged 48, of pneumonia complications.
Blimey.
But Jimmy doesn't think so. He thinks she was mad. It wasn't Dear Up. It was that Thorwald who came back. Well, do you know the fire escape couple were given different instructions through earpieces?
Yeah, that's right. So the tussle looked kind of then real because they were getting different directions. Yeah, I did know that. Yeah.
And it resulted in one of them falling through the window as they was doing it, which Hitchcock loved.
It was interesting that they all had earpieces in, apart from, because is that right? That Alfred Hitchcock directed from James Stewart's apartment.
Because it's a big set, isn't it?
They built the whole thing for purpose, and it was all working. There was like 7 of the rooms or something, or 7 were functional.
Yeah, the torso
girl.
She stayed there the whole time. She lived on set in her apartment. I think it's quite a cushy little number.
It's cool, isn't it?
All she has to do is dance, and she made up the dancing.
He told her not to get too professional because
she's not professional.
Yeah, keep it amateur, which is quite good. But no, I thought it was interesting that he directed everyone on earpieces other than, obviously, James Stewart, as he stayed the whole time in that apartment. Obviously, apart from his cameo with the piano player. That's when he appears, isn't it, in the film, Hitchcock?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And the clock.
Yeah, he's the clock mender, isn't he? Yeah. This is what Jimmy Stewart said. Everyone was crazy about Grace Kelly. We just sat around and waited for her to come in so we could look at her, and she was kind. She was kind to everyone. Courteous, beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
And this is what you just said. All the apartments in Thorwald's building had electricity and running water. Grace Kelly chose this over On the Waterfront.
That's right, because of the role in fashion, wasn't it?
Yeah. She thought she'd get some free dresses and stuff like that.
Is that right?
Yeah, apparently. That's all.
I thought it was because she was driven by the idea of someone that was into fashion, because she was or something.
Oh yeah, of course she was.
Just wanted some free dresses.
Yeah.
Maybe she did. I don't know. It's interesting looking at the poster because I was reading something about how misleading it is that out the window
kill Torso.
Not only is Miss Lonely Hearts up high when she's in the basement, or the bottom floor, that you've got a creepy hand of Thorwald looking like he's coming.
He's gonna have to torso now.
It doesn't make any sense.
Someone's got to stop him.
Because Miss Torso's up high as well, wouldn't she? And over in front of him, because he's higher up, isn't he?
Yeah.
It's quite interesting.
It probably just looked better rather than having her up at the top and them at the bottom. That was the most interesting windows, I guess.
I suppose so. Do you remember?
I think they were.
What others did we have? We had the married couple to his left, didn't we?
Yeah.
There was lots of funny anecdotes every time they had an argument. His face was as if to say he's right, because the whole... Just the commentary that he has with... So he has the chat originally with the nurse. I forget her name every time.
Betty.
Yeah, Thelma Ritter's, but her character... What's her character's name?
Betty.
No, it's not Betty.
Sweaty Betty.
So he has that chat with her about... Which I found really interesting watching it again. And thinking about how often people talk about modern living, the modern day, and how we all talk about it, don't we, a little bit, like, people say, it's not like the old days when, and even in a film then in 1954 she's talking about how people fell in love, they got married, it was very simple. People now are talking about how things, from like, I don't know, the 80s, people are going, when it was, when we were kids, and every generation seems to have a little bit of a thing. But I thought it interesting, they were talking about things like little commentaries about men and women and about love and how complicated it can be. And obviously that continues with his chats with Grace Kelly, with Elisa, doesn't it? Because she wants to settle down and get married, and she's saying, well, why? Why does it have to be almost this complicated? Why can't I go with you, or you stay with me? And he gives his argument for essentially her kind of leaving and him being on his own, doesn't he? Because he's saying this is his job. He's going to go out with his camera and be a journalist, and he's
that's
going to
his passion.
That's what he wants to do.
I want to travel the world, Mary.
But he's saying that it's not suited to her, and and he doesn't think that she should come with him. And she's kind of arguing that why not? And then he gives that speech about what they would eat and sleep, what you live out of one bag, and blah blah blah. And I thought it was interesting because in the whole film, he's, until obviously the end, he's kind of almost, there's this commentary, isn't there, about he's this man that won't really settle, even though he's got this beautiful, smart, woman that loves him. He's sort of, he's not ready, or he's afraid to, or he's
watching Miss Torso.
He was, wasn't he? And then every time he looks over, the reason I've gone off on a tangent a little bit, but the reason I say it is because the
married couple,
and every time it cut to their window, after obviously all this kind of, we've heard all of this, he'd hear them have a little argument. It makes some comment about marriage, and almost suggesting that things kind of go wrong after marriage, and then they have these arguments, and then he see the guy at the window, and she's like, Barry, or whatever, and he goes, and he's like that, almost, and his face is saying, this is what would happen if I got married.
I took that as, especially because the first few times you see the married couple, you see it's like he opens the window, it's like he's getting fresh air, she's calling him from the bedroom, so it's like she's insatiable, she's wanting him to come back to bed. That's how I saw it.
I saw it as like a nag, like the wife, because he's the whole thing of the wives nag thing.
Oh, I see that afterwards, because how I read their story, the married couple, because they go in there, he walks her out, carries her over the threshold. The next few times you see him, it's like he said, all the blinds up again, and then the bloke looks exhausted, like he's been at it. And then she says, Barry, and she calls him, like beckoning him back to the bedroom. You can see he's knackered. I think she's knackering him out. But then later on,
I never thought of it that way, but it could be.
So it's literally the honeymoon period. Then afterwards, it's like, well, I didn't know you did have a job. Well.
Oh, you know you're probably right, to be honest. I think I've probably got that wrong.
But you know what I just thought of when you saying that? I think the majority of the apartments are different stages in relationships.
I think that was the idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if...
Because Miss Lonely Hearts is obviously someone... She's old now. She's past... So maybe she's...
They're all romancy related, aren't they?
Split up, you know. You obviously got the married couple. Miss Torso has... I mean, throughout the film, you assume it's just her being courted by all these blokes, and she's picked one of them. Doesn't she kiss one of them out and about?
She does, which is like when you realise that...
Everyone was watching.
If you've seen it before as well, you're thinking, well, husband comes home at the end. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, and then, Rick Moranis type.
And then she's out on the balcony kissing this bloke. And I thought, hold on a minute.
Yeah, and then you've got the old couple who sort of take the dog down in the basket.
Thorwald does the...
So that's like an old couple relationship. Who's
the woman with the newspaper sunbathing and she keeps trying to talk to him and he tells her to go away?
Yeah.
Didn't he? Thorwald does. She was interested. She was just on her own, wasn't she? Just a bit of nuisance.
Yeah.
Like a nosy neighbour, almost. I don't think she had any romancy kind of parts in her story, but the married couple. What's interesting with that maybe they were having the honeymoon stage, and then at the end, it's all
over. Honeymoon
period's over. It was that. And I thought there was just one moment where she calls him like as if it's a moan, like Barry, and he's like, it's almost like his head goes, like he thought, here we go. But you're right, could be just exhausted.
I think, because he's in his vest as well.
He's in his vest.
So, which back then is equivalent to someone being topless.
Well, that's what, because also it was really hot. It was like a massive heat wave, wasn't it?
This is the other thing, the film only works because it's hot, because obviously if it was cold, all their windows would have been shut and the curtains drawn. So it makes sense when it's in the summer and when you're sweltering hot, you almost don't care. You have all the windows open. You just try and that's the only setting you can have for this, really, isn't it?
Did you like the shots in the opening and at the end? They were quite erratic, weren't they? Almost like sort of dolly shots or whatever they had. It was quite quick and not moving around. But the rest of the film was all just very static. Reverse shot of Jimmy and the neighbours, wasn't it? Yeah.
See, I'm not sure how I feel about it. Because obviously he sped it up at the end.
Yeah,
the people running out and stuff.
That was weird.
I felt that was a bit unnecessary. I think he could have just. It's almost like he wanted to capture the whole thing and then moving out, or I would have left him hanging up there for a bit longer.
It's obviously that they wanted to speed up the edit to make it a little bit more like paced. Maybe it's a bit slow. And when there's a moment in one of those shots where they wanted that sped up, but by the nature of doing that, you speed up. These people start looking really funny because they're moving really quick. I've seen that in a few older films. They speed up little clips for almost quicken like a section up of editing. But it does catch me as well. I think, oh, that's weird. I thought his shot of him falling looked really good still, even though you know it's dated. But it
weren't as bad as what I remembered it the first time. I think the first time I see it I thought that was quite bad. But because I was expecting it to look bad when I watched it the other day, I watched it and thought, actually, it's not that bad. No. Especially when you consider, like you said, the time.
Those are clever techniques that they used in those kind of films.
You were saying earlier about the woman as well. Who's the woman?
Obviously, obviously the story is that believes that Thorwald has killed his wife, and then there's obviously talk that because he starts talking about how to Grace Kelly, doesn't he? Just how would you start to cut up a human body, doesn't he? And he believes like he's going out with this suitcase like a series of times. Sort of, there's a few times, isn't there? In that one night, he keeps going in and out with a suitcase.
So do you think that was him carrying the body?
Well, I think that was the suggestion that either he's taking her stuff, but then there was talk about. Then there was talk about parts of her all over, I don't know, being moved around, I don't know. Yeah.
Because those of it, obviously, he's paranoid. It's just because he happens to be right. And there's so many times when his friend, the detective, comes in, you think, well, that's the end of it. At that point, I'd go, oh, okay, well, obviously she's alive. Ignore me. But he would not let it go.
It's because he said that himself. I've seen ropes, and I've seen saws, and I've seen trunks tied in rope, and I've not seen...
I was on rope.
And he's not seen his wife, has he, for a few days, or whatever it is, with a day or 2 days, because she's an invalid, isn't she? And he says that and then the blind was down, and then suddenly she's not there at all. What's happened? And obviously the policeman saying, well, she's gone away, and you know,
people have seen her. Here's a postcard. There's a lot of effort the guy went through to cover it up, and it is sort of like in the middle of with the windows open and stuff. One of my favourite shots, which he does a couple of times, I think, is when Thorwald's in the darkness with just a cigarette, and you can just see
like that as well.
the glowing.
I think he's within his sort of rights to feel that there's something wrong, and then you're sort of with him, aren't you? Because you are following his essentially everything. You're seeing everything through his eyes, really. But then he falls asleep, and this is the point we talked about before. Was he falls asleep, and then it cuts over and back to Thorwald's apartment, and he's leaving with a woman, and we're like, well, but we think she's already gone. So who's that? Is it her, really? Are they trying to say that it's maybe someone else? But it's never really said, because he hasn't. Because Jimmy hasn't seen it, has he? He doesn't know about that this woman's kind of then left.
See, I think about this film a lot, mainly because where I live, because you've been in my flat, haven't you? And opposite there's a big building similar to that, and I look at the windows, and obviously they're all closed and the curtains are drawn. Even in the summer you don't really get much to look at, and I think it's quite an ideal place to recover if you've broken a leg, because especially back then, no internet and stuff like that, you have got all the entertainment in the world watching these people's lives unfold. It's almost equivalent
to... We're all curious, aren't we?
Watching like Big Brother or something like that.
Yeah.
You know? Or why do you think he's so loved by like Hollywood or by people? He's such a
he's a natural,
person.
isn't he? He sort of like the everyman was what he became famous for, because of roles in, I think, a lot of the romantic comedies he made before the war. And then obviously went on to do a lot of darker stuff after the war and the westerns and things like that, and he had a bit of everything about him. He always sort of played himself, but he always had a bit of which is what people would say about him often, which I always find isn't necessarily, it's not like a
jibe.
It's not a jibe. It's more of like because he's got his drawl and his demeanour and the way he sort of is. But I don't think that makes him playing the same character or having the same traits in every character, because you look at his character in Rear Window, you look at him in Wonderful Life, you look at him in Harvey, they're three completely different roles. Everything he does, he brings a lot of himself to it. I think he's just a phenomenal actor. I think there's a lot just in his face and in his eyes and the way he holds himself.
Yeah.
He's very charismatic, he's very believable, and then just the films that he's chosen to make have always just been really captivating as well.
I think it's too easy for people to say as if, he's the same person, because you think, well, how many different people is Denzel Washington, for example, in films? But he's still a great actor, and he's still, like, in this film, he's a likeable person, he's a hero. In this film, he's a horrible person, just because it's the same shell, and that's almost what you want from someone. If you go see a film... if you're going to see a Jimmy Stewart film, you want him to be Jimmy Stewart. You don't want him coming in there with like a West Indian accent or something like that.
And he's got such a distinct voice, as you keep liking to try and do. I've always found him really captivating on screen. He's sort of epitome of a movie star, especially from in the day. It's the charisma on screen, isn't it, and what he brings to you know. So, and I think they say because he never learned how to. He didn't learn or anything as such. He didn't go to sort of acting. I don't think he had acting classes and things.
No.
Did he? He was just very natural, and he brings, I think, a bit of every day into his roles.
There are loads of actors like that who they've got it, and some things you can't teach people. It's like I like writing, for example, and I think with writing you can teach someone how to write. You can teach them, well, this is the structure, and this is like, obviously at the base level, teaching them the words, sentences, and using how to write properly. And you can show them other people's stories, and they can go, oh, I can try and imitate that, I can try and imitate that. But to have that sort of part where you think, I've got this great idea for a story, it's almost in the back of your mind. It's like, you can learn how to be a good artist, but there's some people just naturally have it. They pick up a pen from a young age and they see something other people don't. And I think the same thing with acting. It's like Ben, for example, my brother Ben, I think he's a great actor.
Yeah, he is.
You know, I love acting, but he's a better actor than me. And it's frustrating in a way, because I think, he could have been, if he pursued it when he was younger, because he always liked doing it, he'd done a few plays and stuff, but he never really pursued it, he never got an agent, never really went for jobs and stuff.
He has a natural ability on camera. Yeah.
He just is so relaxed on camera, and he sort of really sort of sells it, you know. But with me, as I said, I feel too self-conscious on it, You know, I'm thinking too many other things and I can't do it. I can act, but only to a certain degree. Ben's like a lot better at it.
Some people study for longer, or they work at the craft, don't they? Some people just have it.
Yeah, he never studied. It was a natural, you know, and it's just whenever he went for things, he'd get it automatically. I think you should be going for more things. People go, hey, he's a great actor, you know.
But we talk about, I mean, we're talking about reasons to love Jimmy, or for example, like in It's a Wonderful Life, when he has that moment. There's a couple of scenes, as we've spoken about on that podcast, but the moment when he breaks down in front of the family, the raw emotion in it, you can see something. You can see it in the eyes, and you know if the actor's believing it. You can tell. And we're not, you know, the audience just know. And I think with his performances, especially in It's a Wonderful Life, you're really on board with everything. You believe everything that comes out of him. So I think that's another reason why I like him so much. And I sit in Rear Window, I'm just on board with him, even though he's not particularly nice or warm as a man.
But he's warmer than he is in Vertigo anyway.
Yeah, much warmer. But yeah, well, I'll say yeah, I know what you mean. And that's the thing about that film, isn't it? It's the whole film in Rear Window is literally his apartment and then what he sees. The whole film. And you think, how can a film be that captivating for, what was it, like 2 hours long? I like all the little nuances. I like all the little looks, because you need a lot of that, and because predominantly he doesn't say a lot because it's just him watching in the film. It's all down to his reactions and his responses to things that happen in front of him, and I think he does that so well. Like the little looks about the married couple, he sort of makes like a face, you know, rolls his eyes almost in a sort of suggestive way. Little natural things, and he doesn't overdo it, I don't think. And his conversations with Grace Kelly I find amazing in the film, because you have those moments.
Good flirting in it.
Really, yeah, that's really, really good. But also there was that moment when they have that heated discussion where he starts getting annoyed with her. He's like, shut up for a minute on this. Yeah. And they're trying to get each other's point across because they both really believe what they're both trying to say. Saying, you can't come with me because this would happen if you came with me. And she's sort of saying, well, why not? And trying to give her reasons why it would work. And I think there's a lot of real life in that as well.
I like when they're having the... I can't remember the line there. Where he says, well, you are creative or something. Am I? And he goes, yeah, you're great at creating
awkward situations.
Yeah. And she sort of almost takes pride in it. She's like, her toing and froing with it, her sort of verbal combating with him is great. You can sense the flirtation there.
I wish I could be creative.
Oh, sweetie, you are. You have a great talent for creating difficult situations.
I do?
Sure. Staying here all night uninvited.
Oh, surprise is the most important element of attack. And besides, you're not up on your private eye literature. When they're in trouble, it's always their girl Friday who gets them out of it.
Well, is she the girl that saves him from the clutches of the seductive showgirls and the overpassionate daughters of the rich?
The same?
That's the one. But he never ends up marrying her. That's strange.
Weird. Why don't I slip into something more comfortable?
By all means.
I mean, like the kitchen, and make us some coffee.
Oh, and some brandy, too, huh?
Did you ever watch the remake?
With Christopher Reeve? No. Have you?
I've watched bits of it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I couldn't sit through the whole thing. I watched, and it's just completely different film. It's nothing like it. It's not even stuck in the same sort of setting. It has like this big bit at the beginning with people going, and what are we going to do to this apartment? Make it more wheelchair accessible for you? Because obviously with Christopher Reeve, who had the horrible horse riding accident.
That was the last film we made before that as well, wasn't it? I could be wrong.
Because you can see he's paralysed. So for him to do Rear Window and play a paralysed person...
Have I got that wrong? Maybe I think it was something else. He's another one that you could say in that same light. He's a star. He had charisma. He hit the screen and he was
person.
Brilliant to watch. You're on board with what you're seeing, you know.
Yeah, but yeah, in that I've just watched a few little bits, and it had these people saying, "Yeah, we're going to make this accessible to you." So it's showing him going into the apartment. And then at the end, it's got like the blokes in the room with him getting, and the villain is not like Thorwald in this. He's sort of more of a pantomime, like, yeah, I'm going to get you, I'm going to make you watch. And you think...
I mean, you'll never be able to mimic, you know, lots of films have had the same themes, you know, or there was a film, Disturbia, that they made.
Yeah.
Shirley Buff.
Yeah.
And that was the same story.
Shirley Buff.
It was the same thing, wasn't it, really? Just modernised with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, like an ankle bracelet on, didn't it? I
That's
saw
right,
that.
yeah.
That was all right. But again, it's not a patch on a film like this.
And I think what I think is good when you set something in one setting, when you take away all the bells and whistles, so say a film like this, or like 12 Angry Men, or all those films where it's, or even something like Misery, all stuck in one location, you ain't got distracted by anything else. It's over a small amount of time, and anything that they say and anything that happens, you're listening to every word. It's like looking through a microscope, thinking, rather than just sort of sitting there watching every little detail that happens. So then that's what the film's made up of. It's like details, the tiny little details, the flower bed, like when he gets the thing out and goes, look, can you see the difference? And you're looking thinking, what is the difference? It's not the flowers. Flowers are different hearts. Now come on, get me.
It's interesting because there's things that she makes comments. She's not on board. Grace Kelly's not on board with him at the start. She thinks he's mad, and it's not until they start talking about her handbag and that she didn't take it with her, and he's tying up that big box with the rope, and she's like, "Okay, start from the beginning."
Yeah,
because she starts saying, no, she'd never leave her ring. If she's going on a trip, why would she leave her bag and her ring?
Yeah,
and then they start going, "This is interesting." It's interesting. The whole discovery. I love the pace of the way it's done. It does just feel really, really good.
Yeah. See, I liked. There was the bit where his friend comes in and he's sort of staring intently at the window, and you think, oh, he now believes Jimmy, and he's like, tell me again, and he says something like, tell me again what's happened. And so Jimmy Stewart's thinking, oh, he's on board with it, so he's telling him all this stuff and goes, you didn't need to know that, did you? As if like, and he just goes, no, I didn't, because he's alive. And you think, oh,
yeah,
I thought that was going to be the moment where you're sort of easy on board.
It's almost like a scruffy teenager in a jibby in his wheelchair, goes over to the window with his back to him and just like, it's him to say, you can leave. Send me a good detective. He says to him, doesn't he?
Yeah. So the other thing is when Thorwald comes up the stairs, which is obviously quite suspenseful, and he opens the door,
it's very good as well.
And he's saying, what do you want? And he's just sitting there silent. I thought he would have maybe said something.
There's nothing about that. There's no music or anything. It was just so perfect. There's like real little. You have to really watch it and listen, don't you? It's great sounds.
Yeah.
Like the floorboards and all the little bit. The sound of his camera and him rustling and the wheelchair and his breathing.
Screwing the light bulbs in.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah. No,
and that effect was really good. Sorry, you were going to say?
Yeah, what the blurred,
I like
blurred eye effect.
There was talk about different effects. They were going to try like a more of a sprinkling kind of effect, I think, on camera, and they went with that. And I think it's brilliant, that idea of the red and the orange or whatever it was, the reddy orange.
Yeah,
making you feel that way.
It's high up on my Hitchcock list.
It's just high on all time films. I always put it in like my top 10 probably of films.
Is it your favourite Hitchcock?
I think it's probably my favourite Hitchcock film. Yeah, I would say it probably quite comfortably. That with Vertigo. I love North by Northwest.
Right.
There's a few. I do with Roper. It wasn't one of my favourite films, and it wasn't his best role. He's not in it obviously as much as the main two guys in that one. And I think he often said he was miscast in that. I don't think he was miscast, but
no, I think he's really well cast, because where obviously they're younger guys, and he's believable as this like sort of youngish teacher, one who they respect and look up to, rather than some fuddy-duddy old teacher. You think, but him, you can sort of, because he's so confident and intelligent, and you think, oh yeah, I can see how they admire him, and they've misunderstood him and trying to play up to him and going, I mean,
it was a bit over. I think it was because it was a bit over the top, maybe. I don't know. I liked it a lot. I loved it, and the technique they used with the long take and cutting the cameras together and everything. I thought it was brilliant. And I think I do rate it as a good movie. It definitely is a great film, really. But for Rear Windows, for me, on a bit of another level. I'm
going to do a top 10 Hitchcock films podcast, because I really like. He's probably my favourite director. I'd say.
He's incredible. Yeah, his films.
And I remember I went through a period in my life when I was just literally watching all of his films, one after the other. I think, oh, wow, that's really good, and almost ranking it in my head anyway.
And some of the early ones, like Lifeboat, and some of the really early ones he did were quite good. And you can see a lot of his techniques coming out and the way his storytelling was coming out. Yeah. It was really good.
Michael, do you know, you'll never guess what it got on Rotten Tomatoes. The critics gave it 98%. and the audience 95%.
That's got to be the highest you've done on your podcast, isn't it?
I think it possibly could be. It possibly could.
I wonder what Wonderful Life was on there.
I
don't think it was as high as that.
Wonderful Life got 8.6 on IMDb, 94% by the critics and 95% by the audience. So it's
pretty close on both.
Well, the audience is exactly the same, and it actually got higher on IMDb than this, but lower than by the critics.
Rear Window is lower than A Wonderful Life. Yeah, 8.4, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
8.5.
8.5.
Only by 0.1 then.
Yeah. But, still lost. But you'd be happy with that anyway, because Wonderful Life's your favourite film.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah. Okay, well, thanks for joining me today, Michael.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. Now, for next week, Ben has chosen a film which you'd think, we're doing Rear Window again. It could be the sister film to Rear Window, and that's Shallow Hal, starring Jack Black and Gwyneth Paltrow. You seen Shallow Hal?
Yeah.
You like it?
Yeah.
So what's your face for?
Oh, because you said it's like a...
Oh no, well obviously it's nothing like Rear Window. I was being sarcastic.
Yeah,
no, I was trying to be sarcastic, not necessarily funny.
Do you want to start that again?
No, it's fine. I'll leave it in, I don't care. We're trying to be funny. Compare that shit to Rear Window.
I was thinking, he said, this could be like, so you said it could be like a sort of sister film to Rear Window, and I was thinking, what is it going to be? Like some great Hitchcock film, Shallow Hal, and I was thinking, did you say Shallow Hal?
It was, no, I think it's like, it's pretty much as far away from Rear Window as what you can get. But
no, it's a good film. It could be worse.
It's a good film, and Ben really likes it. So
I haven't seen it since probably when it came out. But
we'll watch it, and then you can listen to the podcast and find out interesting things.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Thanks for listening, and see you next week where Ben will be back for Shallow Hal. Bye bye.
See ya.
The New York State sentence for a peeping Tom is 6 months in the workhouse.
Oh, hello, Scott.
They got no windows in the workhouse. You know, in the old days, they used to put your eyes out with a red-hot poker. Any of those bikini bombshells you're always watching worth a red-hot poker? Oh, dear. We become a race of peeping Toms. What people ought to do is get outside their own house and look in for a change.